Hi there, Heloisa. So let's take a look at this last set of essays. I saw that your exam is tomorrow, so I'm very excited for you. Let's see if we can get you absolutely ready for tomorrow. I'm sure you are though ready. So let's take a look and see what you wrote about traveling abroad for business with families. Here's what you said. Whether to take the family on, you take somebody on a trip, a journey, okay? So just keep that in mind. Take on. So whether to take the family on a business journey or not is a contentious topic in societies since the inception of globalization. All right, it's fine. However, I know we said, and you said in your email, that you're not going to be able to remember a lot of grammar at this point, or learn a lot of grammar. But I just want you to keep in mind something about time markers, which you may have possibly learned at some point during your English studies. There are certain words that kind of obligate you to use a certain tense, and one of those words is since. So in this context, it's not entirely right to say is a contentious topic since, but here you really need to be using present perfect. So has been a contentious topic since the inception of globalization. Okay, it's a detail, but since it's your first sentence in your introduction, you always want to make a good impression. Okay, for me, the introduction has several purposes. One of them obviously is to answer whatever this question is, but the second one is really to make a nice strong impression on your examiner. So I'd like to see your first sentence grammatically correct. For that reason, this should be has been. So let's try it again. Whether to take the family on a business trip or not has been a contentious topic in society since the inception of globalization. In modern times, traveling around the globe has become, it's the same thing here, has become a routine for workers from different industries, and in order to fulfill their absence at home, mothers and fathers have been opting to take their partners and children on business trips. However, workers' busy schedule is not always favorable to enjoy the travel time together with their families. All right. Obviously I had to correct some of the grammar. For me though, besides the grammar, the biggest problem is it positive or negative? You didn't answer it. And remember, this is something we've been talking about while you've been doing these essay corrections, that in order to be considered for band 7, you have to address and answer whatever the command is in that prompt. So is it positive or negative? To what extent do you support it? You have to answer that here. And I'm not getting that. I'm getting a very removed, I'm getting a very kind of impartial, objective look at this, and that's not what they're asking you for. Okay? So you need to say, in my opinion, I support this wholeheartedly, or I understand why people do this, even though there may be some disadvantages, something like that. But you do need to directly answer the question. All right, let's move on. On one hand, several employees who choose to take their families on business travel, and you don't need to say several. Several is a word which surprisingly is kind of limiting. So a word which is a little less so is some. So why don't we try it like that? On one hand, some employees who choose to take their families on business travel have the advantage of reducing the costs while flying abroad. This is mainly because companies pay for the employee's flight ticket, hotel, and meals, which significantly reduces the costs for the family. For instance, a recent government research in Brazil, you don't need a comma here, shows that the average amount spent on a 5-day trip from Brazil to Portugal, no comma, is approximately $5,000 for a household of 4. Hence, it can be stated that if a couple with 2 children decide to take advantage of the parents' business duties by traveling together to another country, this family would be reducing their costs by, here, 25%. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that traveling with the beloved, we don't say beloved ones, we say with loved ones. So, traveling with loved ones would have a positive impact on one's expenses, okay? Again, careful with some of these prepositions. I thought your development was good. You were absolutely on topic. You were clear about saving the cost. It was obvious here in the sentence. It was obvious here. It was obvious throughout. So that was really good. It was solid. It was very tightly organized. It was good. Here for me, the problem is with some of that grammar. Okay? With some of those little things that are just kind of, you know what they are? They're pesky mistakes. Did I understand everything? Yes, absolutely. Did you write some nice advanced grammatical sentences? Yeah, of course you did. But there are some little pesky errors, like with prepositions and such. And so that was the one thing that kind of stood out. In any case, it was a good paragraph, so let's move on. Oops. Okay. On the other hand, while on a business trip accompanied by the family, workers do not have sufficient time to spend with them. Although they are together in the same country, the employee will be attending meetings or a specific training. For example, IBM, which is a multinational company with offices in over 150 countries, takes 70% of its employees annually to be trained in its headquarters in New York. The training sessions, to be accomplished in 1 week, require 9 hours per day of the worker's schedule. In this case, the family spends a day visiting city attractions, museums, and malls, while one of the parents is stuck in the job training. Therefore, it is abundantly clear that the time devoted to work-related activities do not allow the person to enjoy a proper vacation with the family. Lovely. That's very nice. The grammar here was flawless, so nicely done. And it was some advanced, some tricky stuff you did, so congratulations. That was really good. To conclude, although the cost savings one might have by including their family in business travel without the A, I strongly believe that having proper time to spend with them is imperative. Lovely. Therefore, the negative effect outweighs any possible advantage that can exist in taking the family while on business travel. All right. So in your conclusion, your position was clear. It was not clear in your introduction. I'm going to tell you once again that essentially you have to just really, really, really pay attention to what that command is. There's always a command. It could be do the benefits outweigh the disadvantages. It could be discuss both views and give your opinion. But anytime they want to know where you stand on something, what your opinion is, you absolutely should address it in your introduction. This way, what you're really doing is you're giving the reader, or for your purposes, the examiner, you're giving the examiner a roadmap. You're saying, look, this is how I stand on this position. This is what I believe. But now I'm going to explain to you everything that I have to say about this topic. Okay? And then you will understand fully why I say what I say and why I believe what I believe. So this is really important. It's important to do in your introduction. Why? Because if you look at the band descriptors for task achievement, it says that you really must present a clear position throughout your answer. And throughout means from the beginning to the end. And so if it needs to be clear from the beginning, that means it must be clear from your introduction. Okay? So a lot of great things going on in this essay. Just keep in mind the things that we're talking about, and you'll be all set for tomorrow. Now, let's take a look at your task 1, which is about the restaurant. Okay. The first thing I'm going to tell you is something that we talked about this morning when we looked at your other set of essays. You've got Dear Manager here, so it's a formal letter. You don't know the name of the person you're writing to, but you finished it sincerely. If you remember what I told you when I corrected this morning's set, it's that when you don't know the name of the person you're writing to, your sign-off should be yours faithfully. So keep that in mind. It's just a convention of letter writing, formal letter writing when we don't know who we're writing to. So that's the first thing I want to tell you about, and then let's see what you wrote about this restaurant experience. Dear Manager, I'm writing this letter regarding the unpleasant experience my family and I had at your restaurant yesterday. First, I would like to disclose that we were celebrating our oldest daughter's, you need an apostrophe S here. As she is a vegetarian, we had chosen the Palm Tree Restaurant in East Toronto since it offers dining. No, you wrote dinning. You want dining with one N. Dining options for everyone. Okay. We called in advance, made our reservation, and everything was set when we arrived at the restaurant at 7 p.m. Several minutes after we placed our orders, our dinner arrived, except my daughter's meal. We were then informed that the vegetarian lasagna she ordered was oversold, and the waitress apologized for the inconvenience, asking my daughter what she would like to have instead. To make a long story short, she ended up with a tasteless tomato soup while we all were having our desserts. Okay. I therefore suggest that I be given a full refund to compensate For, you have to compensate for something. Our frustration in a moment that we were supposed to be celebrating. Okay? I look forward to hearing from you sincerely. All right, I already told you about the sincerely, so that's fine. I thought this was fine. I thought it wasn't terribly formal, nor was it informal. 167 words. You're fine there. Let's see. Now, I felt the reason why I checked the word count is not because I thought you didn't meet the word count. I knew you did, but I just wanted to make sure and see where you could have potentially added a little more, because it did feel to me a little underdeveloped. So, did you explain the facts? Yes, absolutely. Were you polite? 100%. Were you firm? Yes. What I think that you could have done a little better is outline what you wanted. All you really said is, I suggest I be given a full refund to compensate for our frustration. Now, from what I read before, the only real frustration is that you took your daughter there because she's a vegetarian and they didn't have what she wanted, and then she waited for quite a bit of time to get her really bad thing. That was another place where you could have added a little more, because here we go. You said to make a long story short. I actually didn't want you to make a long story short. I really wanted you to explain this. So she asked my daughter what she would like to have instead. She finally ordered a soup. Unfortunately, the entire family had our full 4-course meal before she even received her bland and cold and I don't know, out of a can soup. Okay, so this is a place I actually did want you to expand a little more. All right, I felt like a little bit of that detail was missing. Then, here you say you're suggested a full refund. This is what I'm trying to say, because your frustration wasn't really entirely clear. You kind of glossed over it, you know, which is why I thought you should have expanded on this. So, I therefore suggest that I be given a full refund to compensate for our frustration. It should have been at a moment that we were supposed to be celebrating. Here, the other thing that I want from you is, if you're asking for a refund, you need to be a little more specific. So I say something like, please find my bank details enclosed to process the wire transfer. Or, I will stop by the restaurant in 5 days' time to coordinate the processing of my refund. Something like that, just to show that you're serious and you're going to follow through on this. Otherwise, it just feels a little bit like an empty complaint, an empty threat. I want a full refund. Okay, yeah, and? So you do need to add a little something to this. And in fact, although I'm not a huge fan of this, you could have actually put in a little kind of warning of what kind of consequence would happen if this did not happen. Something like, if you do not process a refund for me, I will provide your restaurant with negative reviews on Foursquare and all social media. Or I will never set foot in your restaurant again, which is probably not appropriate language, but I will stop dining at your restaurant along with all of my friends. So something like that. But you do need to add something more. My favorite thing is really to just say how you're going to follow up on this, and that you're going to make sure that they have the information they need to process your refund. So that's really the best step to take here. But like I said, it did need something a little more here, and it did need something a little more here. Like I said, it was like, what, 167 words? Is that what I said before? This is what's counted in your word count. Yep, 167. So you did have a little wiggle room to write a little more, and I wanted you to, actually, in those 2 spots that I mentioned. Otherwise, it was lovely. We already talked about it. I already told you. I thought it was good. So keep those things in mind. When you're reviewing your work tomorrow, ask yourself, what of the bullets, because they're usually like 4 bullets. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and then they say, and blah, 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 blah. So when you get that, ask yourself, how many sentences or how much writing have I dedicated to each of these bullets? Okay, you don't want like a paragraph for one thing and then like one sentence for something else. So try to balance this out. And another thing that I want you to do is think out what you're going to write before you start writing. I don't know how you've been preparing so far, but if you could write down just a few notes, like a couple of notes about how you're going to expand on each one of the bullets, it'll give you a sense of how well you're balancing what you're writing for each of them. So these are some of the things I want you to try tomorrow. And I'm really, really, really excited. I really want to know how it goes tomorrow. And, you know, if you're following some of the advice that you're getting today. So just please keep us updated. Let us know what's going on. And I want to wish you the best of luck. You've been working really hard in a short amount of time. I know it's been stressful, but you're doing great. So best of luck tomorrow, and keep us updated.